First question with Kevin Baxter. Kevin, go ahead.
Greg, thanks again for your time.
Hey, Kevin.
I hope you're well. Everyone always says it's a cliche that with a derby game, the records don't matter, throw out the records. But they kind of do matter. And with those guys are scuffling real bad. You guys have lost 2 in a row. Chicharito's out. Vela's out. What do we make of this game?
I think it's still kind of a mid-season clash with two teams that are certainly trying to regain some momentum. For us, regain some momentum. It was the first time we've lost 2 games in a row, so we certainly want to try to rebuild some momentum out of that. The fact that it's a derby just adds to the intensity of it all and to the the rivalry nature of it, and probably adds to the emotion of it a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, both of us are trying to regain some momentum in this, as we're moving into the second part of this season. For us, it's to tighten up some things again that we've been talking about and working on now that we've had a few days of training, and improving upon our performances. And so there's a lot in that, but nobody's winning the championship today or doing any this weekend or anything like that. But it is an important game for each of us, I think, to regain our footing and some momentum trying to move forward.
Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll go with Damian Calhoun with the LA Daily News. Damian, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Damian, great, thanks.
I know it's early in your training week, right? But what have you seen out of the group, like response-wise, coming off the loss, whatever day? I forgot what day that you guys lost the other game. But what's the attitude been like of the group so far?
Yeah, the attitude's been great. The response has been great. I mean, the guys had a recovery day and then 2 days off to just regroup mentally and physically. And then, we came in and got them turned around. And then we had a long video discussion session looking at some of the things that we really, really have to tighten up. And that was a positive discussion followed by a high intensity training session where the guys were competing and sprinting and focusing on the things we needed to. And then today we got a little bit more into our preparation for the match. Attention to detail has been good. The guys, their legs are under them after a couple of days for sure. And it's going to come down to execution. A lot of it's going to come down to execution and every play during the course of the game that we execute that play with the detail that play requires, and that concentration. And so that's what we've been talking about. And, the first couple of days have been great. And tomorrow we'll do our last prep day and physically and mentally turn ourselves into a team ready to compete on Saturday.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Damian. We'll go with Joe Tutino. Oh, never mind. Joe, I don't think you have your hand raised. We'll go with Josh Guessman. Josh, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, thanks for taking the call. When you look at how rapidly some of the games have come in recent weeks, I have to imagine that there hasn't been a lot of training going on. Usually it's recovery and then get prepped for the next game, a lot of walkthroughs. So how does this week sort of, change that a little bit, actually getting back to training? I know you talked about it a little bit there. And then after this, there's, 14 days between the next game as well. How much does that help you sort of in the middle of the season right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's welcomed, to be fair. It's obviously over the course of the first half of the season and this window, we've been trying to get our group together. And then we had national team duty, guys away, new guys coming in like Dayon and Nico. And so our pieces are together now. What you see is our team now for the rest of the season. And as we were going through that process, we were coming out of it playing 3 games in 6 days and things were really compact. And so now with a little bit of window time, we have our pieces here. At least we know all the names and all the faces. Obviously, we're going to lose some guys to international duty, but we do have this week to prepare for this match, which is come at a good time for us to address some things that we haven't been doing well. And then once we get out of this game, I think with those next 2 weeks are really to set our path for the second half of the season and the direction we want to go. Again, we'll be missing some players in that process while they're away with national team, but we will have enough of the group and those experienced players coming back and plugging them in is something that we'll be able to do. But the training sessions are much needed and much appreciated in the moment. And then we have to, coming out of this 3 weeks, we've got to really set our pathway for that last stretch of the season, and be consistent and be great at what we're supposed to be doing on the field.
Thanks, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with Scott French next. Scott, go ahead.
Hey, Greg.
Scott.
We've seen LAFC go 7 games without a win over, I guess it's been about 6 weeks since they beat Real Salt Lake, and playing some pretty good soccer while doing so. When you look at them, either just watching the games or when you're doing scouting work, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I agree with you in many aspects. I think, sometimes the game is fine lines, and, watching them last week, even against Vancouver, they have chances. They can put the chances away. They can put the game in their favor. They don't make the chances. Then they leave themselves a little bit vulnerable, 1 mistake or 2 mistakes, and you can lose games. The margins can be really fine in the game. And so, and I think they've suffered from that a little bit through the year. They still play a good level of soccer, a good brand of soccer. They still make it very difficult on the opposition. But again, it comes down to executing in both boxes. It comes down to finishing the chances you get on at least on a reasonable percentage, and it comes down to protecting your goal and not giving anything away on the other side. So you can talk about everything between the 18s as being beautiful, but again, the game is decided in the boxes at some point, and I feel like they've done a nice job of controlling games the way they always have, and in between the 18s, but they haven't been able to put away chances, and they've conceded those odd goals that have put them on the wrong side of results. So I feel like that's been a little bit of them. So that's why they're always a dangerous opponent, because you never know what day the ball is going to start to hit the back of the net for them, and then they're a different team when it comes to results.
Thank you, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Scott. We'll go with Andy D'Arso with Yahoo Sports. Andy, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, how's it going?
Well, thank you.
Greg, I think Chicharito over the All-Star festivity broadcast said something about him being close to being back. I just wanted an update on what you're seeing from him and how close that is exactly.
Yeah, he's on the field. He's going through parts of the training session now with the team. He's doing some work, individualized work during certain parts of the session. The expectation here is, look, we have the option of pushing him into this game and just seeing what happens, or we have 2 weeks of more recovery and more work for him on the other side of this game. So I know it's LAFC and I know it's a rivalry and all that kind of stuff, but we win 2 more weeks of his progress on the other side of this game. And so it just doesn't really make sense. If we were going into the playoffs, if we were going into a scenario where we had multiple games, we might push this a little bit more. But because of the time on the other side, as I said, we really have the opportunity to benefit from that time. And he has mostly the opportunity to benefit from that time to really get himself sharp and ready to compete. So our hope and expectation is he'll be ready to go on the other side of the international break.
Thank you, Andy. We'll go with Larry Morgan next. Larry, go ahead.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for speaking with us as always.
Hi, Larry.
After the game, the most recent contest, you were talking about the mentality had to change on his team, especially on defense. Since you were once a fairly accomplished defender in Major League Soccer, what do you look for in the mentality of a defender? What are some of the key characteristics that make up that mentality?
Yeah, so I think for me, when it comes into mentality, there are a few things that are key. And this is why I say in given play, different guys have different roles. So in a given situation, whoever our first defender is, who is addressing the ball and is going and closing the opposition down, can't just get beat. And too many times in our games, our first defender goes, they address the ball and the man get on the other side of that defender, and then your team defending strategy sort of goes to waste. And so we're losing too many of those initial duels, so to speak, and the opposition is getting on the other side of us, and then we're in crisis pretty quickly. So that's one thing. The mentality of our player, whoever that player is that initiates the pressure and is stepping to the ball, can't get beat, has to control the game, has to keep the player's head down, has to make it difficult, but just can't get played around. When that player plays, if we're closing that guy and he plays a pass and their guy moves again, we can't allow our guy to get 1-2'd around or wall passed around. And again, it's the same thing. So there's that. There's players on the weak side. When we're going to close the play off on the opposite side, the players on the weak side need to move with the rest of the team to close off the middle of the field. We have guys who are still hanging out on the opposite side of the field, not moving with the block. It's respecting the details of the team defensive play, but also individually doing better about managing our own individual duels and managing our first and second balls, being close close enough and compact enough to help each other defensively and not getting stretched out. Whether it's an intentional or unintentional, at times we're resting at bad times where we are leaving ourselves vulnerable. We're stretching ourselves out one way or the other, not staying compact as a group. And sometimes I think it's a product within our group that we love to attack. We love to have the ball. We're hoping that those guys around the ball win the ball so that I can be the guy who gets it in transition and can go attack and create havoc. But we have to respect the fact that we have to see out every defending play by doing all the little things right in that play. And then when we recover the ball, we can get into the transition side of things. So they're just a few of the several details we've talked about as a group that we have to tighten up that are leaving us over the course of 90 minutes too exposed too often. And those are just some defending things. There's also some things about our positions when we have the ball, when balls turn over, our ability to protect ourselves in transitions, things like that. But defending is never one thing. Defending is usually a series of things or a group of things that have to be tightened up, and that was for us what we've been talking about and working on, and our reactions and transitions being better, being quicker, being wiser about our movements in the transitions, things like that. These are details that we have to tighten up as a group. And sometimes when you see it happening in games and then you talk about it in videos and all that kind of stuff. But when you don't have the training days to put the guys on the field and put them into that training environment and get those things to happen and those reactions to happen quickly, call them out in the training sessions, get them fixed in there, then unfortunately they carried over for a few games and they almost became a habit instead of us being able to clean them up, right? And so that's what we wanted this week and for the next 2 weeks is to clean those things up, clean those habits up, be better there.
Since the team has just passed the halfway point of the season, are you surprised that these things keep happening?
I don't like that they're happening. Am I surprised? Not really. Again, just the nature of us having mixed groups, us still putting the team together, us having sometimes different back lines, us not having training days with different guys coming in and out, things like that, guys being away for national team, then coming back. I feel like it's not something that we love to have, but it just is a bit of a sign of the lack of sort of continuity in the group from game in and game out. The teams, I think I said this the other day, the teams that you typically see at the top of the Supporters Shield race are teams who typically are putting out the same 11 almost every single week and maybe have a couple of adjustments here or there because of a busy week. It's not teams that are adapting week in and week out because the group is thin or things like that. And so for us, it's a work in progress because we're trying to get this group, the first primary group, together still, and then we're trying to get our other pieces still on the same page. So we still have some gaps that we have to work through. That's why this is still very much a work in progress. We're not where we need to be yet as a group, but we have a goal and an objective, and we know we need to keep progressing towards that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have one last one with Gio Garcia. Gio, go ahead.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for your time. I want to ask a little bit. I know you kind of touched on this on the matchup this weekend against LAFC. They've had a lot of mental struggles down the stretch, and recently Bob Bradley had mentioned that he's kind of tried everything and it essentially hasn't worked. When you see the back line, they've gone from a back four at times they go to that back five that turns into a three. How do you think you could attack LAFC that way? Because I know at times these last couple of games you guys have struggled a little bit on the offensive end.
Yeah, the first thing I think we have to be able to do on the offensive end is to defend better. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes we have to win balls in better areas of the field. We can't recover balls in our defensive third all the time and expect that we're going to be a super dangerous attacking team. It just leaves too much field and too many defenders that we have to break down if we're winning balls so deep all the time. So one is I think we've got to improve a little bit on our defending so that we can, not let a good team like LAFC just pin us in our half of the field, because that's something that they're very good at. If they can build some momentum in their attacks, they're very good at the counter press. They're very aggressive in the counter press, and you can find yourself under waves of attack if you're recovering balls deep all the time. And so the first is we need to be able to defend better. We need to be able to defend higher in the right ways without exposing ourselves. So that sometimes we can win the ball on the front foot and be able to play out of those transitions going forward, not always just recovering them and securing the balls backwards and underneath the pressure. So that's the first thing. The second is, again, I just think for us, the key always is the speed at which the ball is moving. I think when we are disciplined and we're in good spots and the ball is moving quickly, I think we're a very, very difficult team to defend. And we need to always remember that we're trying to play for the space behind the opposition. You know, we have a lot of guys who are very good and want to play the ball at their feet and between lines, but we have to always remember that the objective is to get behind the opposition, put them in crisis, get to the end lines, get the ball back and cross the face of the goal, moments like that. And so, again, these are nuances with this group that, as a relatively new group with sometimes different faces, that we have to keep reiterating and reminding. But it's the same against LAFC. But I do think the important thing against LAFC is that you can't get caught under waves of attack when they get you pinned in deep, and it's very difficult to get out. We've got to be better at again, recovering balls in better areas and trying to transition forward and not allowing them to get us pinned in terms of their defensive pressure.
Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.